Welcome to Cheers. I'm your host, Avery Woods. Hi guys, welcome back to the Cheers podcast. I'm your host, Avery Woods, and we're in Christina Kirkman's house
Hi,
today.
guys.
I am obsessed with Christina. If you guys don't know who she is, she's the funniest bitch I've ever met in my
Thank you.
entire
We got it
life.
on camera.
Yeah. We also have Winston. You want to say hi? Yeah.
And we got Willa back there if you heard anything.
Now I need a wiener dog because
You
I'm
do.
so obsessed with them. They're so cute.
Aw.
Okay, so I don't know when I found you, but your content makes me belly laugh so hard. And it's also the way you have no cuts because you're just funny. Like you just talk.
No, we just mentioned that. That's why when your name came up in my, when someone
Yeah.
follows you back.
Yeah.
When your name came through, I was like, oh my God.
You DM'd me. You're like,
Yes.
hey, bitch.
No, I
love her.
was floored
You're
when your name
so
came up
cute.
because I just relate to your stuff so much. It's
Yeah.
like the unfiltered stuff, the in-between cuts that like most people would cut out, you keep.
Yeah.
And I don't see much of that on social media, and I feel like I relate to that a lot.
Thank you. We just shut Harry Potter off because we didn't realize we were watching in the background, but that's how I watched in your house and I knew we'd vibe. The eclectic style and the Harry Potter.
Yeah. That's all that we're good.
Yeah. Okay, so for those that don't know you,
Mm-hmm.
can you give a brief intro of yourself?
Sure. God, I'm a person.
Yeah.
And I have a TikTok account, and I don't know. I was a child actor turned adult actor, and then kind of stumbled across social media during the panoramic, like most people. I was a TikTok hater. I say that being a TikTok hater is like the gateway drug to becoming a TikToker.
100%,
You first have to absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, fine, we'll do it. Yeah. And then this little guy, I started posting his videos or videos of him on my channel, and people loved that. And then I made him his own accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Those blew up.
Yeah. Yeah, he's famous.
He was my full-time job. I mean, he still is. I kind of do all 4 accounts. But now I don't know, a little bit of everything. I feel like for so long I just wanted to be an actor, and now I love social media. I love being in control of the content that I produce and the comedy that I get to do. So I think I just like to be trusted with being a personality, whether that's hosting or doing TikTok content or doing this or collaborating with other people. Any capacity in which I can like show my personality is.
Where are you originally from?
Massachusetts.
So how old were you when you first started acting?
10. I was 10.
Was that your choice?
Yes.
Or was
my God, yes.
Were you doing theater and stuff local?
No, I was. I had a very unusual way into it. I feel like most child actors start with musical theater. I was just an only child that loved to entertain. There was a competition as a kid. It was called Are You All That? The Search for the Funniest Kid in America.
Oh, yeah.
And I just was like, hey, Dad, I want to enter. And my dad was like, great. And just without a doubt, without a second to pause and process what I just said, the camera was already in his hand, and we shot my audition tape. And I hadn't watched all that as a kid. I just watched animation and cartoon and SpongeBob. But I was like, oh, this looks fun. I can just we'll fuck around and be on this. Yeah. And then I won.
Wow.
And then I picked up my life and moved to Los Angeles and did that for a couple of years.
Did your parents move everything with you?
My mom came out with me because the rest of the competition took place in LA.
Okay.
And then she quit her job the second I won on the spot.
Wow.
And stayed out there with me full time. And my dad had a business at the time. He stayed in Massachusetts, and then he came out like every month or so.
Dang.
They sacrificed a lot. You don't really realize it until you get older. They sacrificed a lot for me to do that. And then I came back out to LA in 2015, and I've been here. I've been here since.
So tell me so how long were you in LA as a kid acting before you
Came
moved
back? For 3 years.
Okay.
I was filming for 3 years. I would say from 10 to 13. And in that time, when our show was on hiatus, I spent some time in New York. We did a lot of like promo and a lot of like of the other Nick shows that we would shoot in New York. So I was kind of in between LA, New York, and Boston during that time. And then I just, again, like I mentioned to you before, my parents were very much like, if this is ever not fun for you, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
And I was a competitive gymnast at the time, which we talked about. I
Yeah,
wanted to be
no,
a
this
junior
bitch's
Olympic,
body. Okay, I
which I need
literally
to clear. Go ahead, you just say that.
I just need to
Yeah,
say I literally texted you last week and I said, "The fuck are you how are you getting these abs? Like it's literally insane." And you sent me a photo of yourself when you were 8.
10
10.
with a six pack.
Like that's putting it lightly. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then you were talking about how
No,
you
and I
were so
and I
active.
and I said that because I am very active. I'm
Yeah.
very active. Being active is like a huge part of my lifestyle. I love to be active. However, I cannot attribute my physique to just being active as an adult.
Yeah.
And I get so many comments of people being like, "You're gatekeeping your workout routine," and it's like I don't have this like insane, like, crazy fucking workout routine. I've had abs since I was 10.
Yeah, and
And
it's
it's a
true.
lot easier to keep them. And obviously, I do things to keep them, but like
Yeah.
I've had them. It's it's not like I have some magical
I
recipe
love
for
it.
that.
No, it was so funny to me.
But yeah, no, I was a gymnast at the time, so I wanted to go back home and be a normal kid. And the second I said it, we were on a plane and we were back in Massachusetts. And I went to Emerson College. I
Okay.
studied broadcast journalism, and then my senior year, I interned at Comedy Central. And I was like,
Oh.
"Fuck, man, I want to do this again."
That's so cool.
So I went back to Massachusetts, finished my last semester, moved to LA, and then struggled for what felt like 100 years to
Damn.
break back in. Yeah.
You said we were talking briefly, and you said when you left LA and went back home, it was kind of hard.
Yeah.
What was the reason behind that? Do you think people just
It was
looked at you?
It was nothing like that had ever happened, right?
Mm.
You have this kid from suburbia in Massachusetts who just won a competition and is
Mhm.
now on the biggest show for kids, and now she's just waltzing back and like, "Hey guys, I'm ready
Yeah.
for school."
Yeah.
It was there was no social media. It's such a hard age to be a girl.
Totally.
And then you throw that into the mix. I was an only child. I didn't really have like a sibling to lean on. And I went from, hanging out with all these kids that I loved and were so great to then being around all these other kids that just were not great.
Yeah.
It was just a really hard transition. The older I get, I had a lot of resentment and anger for a really long time. Like I was really angry about it. And now as I'm older, I understand where kids were coming from. It's a weird thing to process. And kids are unfiltered and say things that they shouldn't say. And, I don't hold any of that to anybody. But I did not want to. I didn't express myself. Not even, let's just take away being an actor. I wasn't my like goofy normal self for years and years and years. It really wasn't until I went to Emerson College, which is a liberal arts school, lots of theater kids, where I felt like my experience was kind of celebrated, that I finally felt like, oh, I can be a fucking weirdo. Like this is fun. This is cool to be weird. But for the longest time, I was like a shell of a human because of that.
Did you do any acting in between then? Like when
No.
you came back, so you just took the whole complete hiatus?
Yeah. I
Wow.
was done. In my mind, I was never going to do acting again.
Okay. What
And
was
which
your
is weird.
reason?
I
Yeah.
don't know. I haven't really processed that. I don't know why. I think I didn't like, and again, I hate saying it because I know there's going to be people that are going to be like, we don't know who you are. At the time, like I couldn't go to the mall. I couldn't go to the
Yeah.
mall. I couldn't go to the ice rink. I couldn't go to gymnastics practice.
No, it was
I
a
mean,
huge show.
I was swarmed.
Yeah.
And I fucking hated that
Yeah.
so much. And I remember my parents who were like, I mean, they are my rocks. They like kept me grounded. They kept me sane. They could not have handled what I went through. But I mean, there's no handbook for parents that like your kid just becomes an
Yeah.
overnight kind
Yeah.
of actor and you don't know what to do. And they did a really great job. But I remember there being some days that we'd go to the mall and I was in a bad mood and kids would come up to me and I was quiet and my mom would be like, hey, I know you're not having a great day, but you have to be nice. Like
Yeah.
you have to be really nice to these kids. And I remember just feeling like, oh, I hated when people would recognize me. I would get so uncomfortable, mainly because people would like congregate and whisper and point.
Yeah.
And that made me really paranoid
Yeah.
for until now. I'm still paranoid. I still always think when I go to places, people are like whispering and talking about me, and that which it goes against everything that I stand for as far as like being confident. But that I think that's probably why I associated that with being an actor, and I was like never doing that again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't touch that industry at all. Besides going to Emerson, I wanted nothing to do with it.
So how did the Comedy Central thing come to you? Like, did you apply for that? Was it presented to you?
Emerson has a abroad program, which was in Los Angeles, and you have to have an internship. And I remember like hearing some of the internships that people were getting, and I'm like, oh, that's not fucking interesting. It was production. I was like, ah. And then I'm looking and looking and looking, and Comedy Central came up, and I'm like, oh, this could be really fun. I love comedy. And I remember, this is cocky, but I remember like editing some reels and doing some stuff and being like, I'm fucking funnier than these people. I don't need to fucking, just things that would come across the desk that I would watch. And I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, and that was kind of my like awakening of like, what the fuck? You should be doing comedy in some capacity.
Yeah.
And I think that, and also the job, I was like a PA. I mean, I was just a bitch at Comedy Central.
Wiping asses.
And, having that role was really like motivating of like, I want to be that person, the person that I'm working for, whatever. And that lit a fire under my ass, and I went home, graduated, and I was on the first flight after I graduated.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long were you there for?
At Comedy Central?
Yeah.
Just a semester.
And once you graduated and you were here, what was your plan, or did you have one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I had one. Didn't happen that way. My plan was, I was fucking cocky. I was really fucking cocky. I had this pipe dream that like, well, first of all, I went to school for broadcast journalism, which was just a grueling fucking, it was horrible. I was like having to report news at like, the middle of the night, and it was just horrible. And so that was just like, I was like, I gotta do anything other than that. But I had the experience of being on camera and writing and editing, and I was like, fuck it, we'll do acting. I'm like, this is gonna be a breeze. I say this to everybody. Admittedly, it was a fucking asshole at the time. I'm like, I'm gonna walk out of LAX, be a series regular, because I was a series regular and all that. I had connections. I was like, I'm gonna be good. Mm-hmm. I had no fucking business doing anything. I hadn't acted in 15 years. I was a shit actor at the time. Like you can't be just a child actor, and then being a child actor is very different than being an adult, an actor as an adult. They're not. You can't, just because you did one doesn't mean you can do the other. And I was a horrible actor. I was horrible. I mean, I look back now, I started all over again. Once I had the realization of like, okay, this isn't going to happen. You're going to struggle for a really long time, and you got to start over. I remember going to acting classes and looking back and being like, I was the worst kid in class. I remember like watching actors and be like, oh, that's why I'm not working, because there's people like this that exist. And that's what I did. I just sleepless nights, multiple service jobs, every single penny. I remember many months I couldn't pay my rent. The typical starving actor story. I'm because I'm so prideful, I didn't want any help. People were like, you need to network. I'm like, no, I don't want any help. I want to do this by myself, even if it means like taking forever. Like, I want this to happen. I want people to be like, oh, Christina did that all by herself, which was a little crazy and insane that I had that mentality. But that was my plan. My plan was, I'm going to come back out and work. And my plan ended up being, I was working as a hostess and working at Equinox, doing marketing and like doing the most wild jobs just to make ends meet. And then I would do that all day, and then I would do my acting work all night. And I just did that for years and years and years until I got my break.
What was your break?
I was on a show called Ambitions.
Okay.
That was right before actually that was in 2018. It finished airing right before the world shut down. That show saved my life, because that was really when I was like, I think I'm fucking done here. I think. Really? And there's never been anything in my life I've ever quit or come close to quitting. And I remember being like, this is it. I was just missing funerals and weddings, and my grandfather was dying. I was in a toxic relationship. Like, my grandmother had all this shit was happening that I was missing, because as a creative, there's always this like, you can't leave. You can't fucking leave, because if you leave, you're going to miss that audition or that call or like, and I don't have money for a plane ticket.
Yeah.
And I got the call that I booked that show, and that show just gave me my confidence back as an actor. I filmed for 8 months in Atlanta. My family was going through a lot of dark shit during that show, and that show kept me mentally busy. And that show gave me the confidence to get out of my relationship that I was in. It gave me the confidence to not quit acting. It was the first time I was able to pay my bills. I was able to get my boyfriend and I broke up. I was able to get my own apartment. It was just that show really helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And then the world shut down.
So this show stopped filming?
So we did a season. It aired. It did insanely well. And then before we could even keep the ball rolling, the world was done.
Damn.
Yeah. And
so how did that, like, what went through your mind?
Fuck.
Yeah. You're like, we're trying from scratch again?
No,
But
it was that thing where it's like, I finally like get that thing that's getting me going.
Yeah.
And then it's like, fuck you. I think the only thing that kept me going was knowing that everybody was in the same boat. And obviously there was bigger issues than not just being able to work in Hollywood, right? There was like, you have the impending doom, you have the financial impending, like just my mind was everywhere. That's when I started making TikToks. And up until then I was like, this shit is so fucking lame.
Oh, that's how I thought too.
Like,
I was only on Instagram and I was like, I will never, ever get my TikTok trend.
I would just shit on my friends. I'm like, can't believe we're doing this. So stupid.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, one day when I was, drinking like 4 bottles of wine because there was nothing else to do, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a TikTok. And I was like, that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then it was a drug.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. So
also, and a big part of that too was I would say one of my greatest skills is that I can memorize a lot of information.
Yeah.
And that just comes from years and years and years of auditioning and being rejected and memorizing scripts every fucking day and not getting any of them. So I was really good at that. I had Luminosity. I would do 15 minutes of Luminosity every morning. Like I would train my brain. I was like really big into memorizing. So much so, and I've said this before, that I would even in the shower, while I would let my conditioner sit, I would memorize ingredients in order. I would like read it a couple times, put it down and try to remember it, just to like work that muscle all the time.
Damn.
And then when the world shut down, I wasn't working that muscle. So I was like, I'm going to start doing these like really long monologues on TikTok that I can memorize.
Smart.
And that's how it started for me, was I'm just kind of working that muscle.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
it was fun.
because your TikToks, like I was telling you, you're so funny and witty, but you don't make any cuts. Like you're just talking. Do you plan that out before?
No.
Or are you just winging it?
No.
So you're just naturally a funny bitch.
No, I think that people like underestimate
Lemmy?
their in between. Yeah, which I almost didn't post.
Not 40 million views.
And
on that
I'm like, oh
fucking
my God,
vitamin.
now that video has shown me like I will never second guess.
You're welcome, Courtney.
I will never I will never second guess posting content.
I swear to God, all the videos that Scott can attest, I'm like saving my drafts for days. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. I post it. It like does better than any other like long form editing video. I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, I think also, I think the time that I started gaining traction on social media, the climate of trends fits me better.
Yeah.
I had a really hard time when the super aesthetic curated feed was trending.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big reason why I was a hater, just because I couldn't relate to it. And I was like, I'm not aesthetic.
Yeah.
In the way that, where everything is just like, my house, like before you came here, I was like, I have to make it look like no one lives here. Like, because there were boxes, like PR boxes, and my dog had a dingleberry stuck to her ass. I'm pulling that out, and it was just like a mess.
That's me, but with human children.
Yeah. Okay. So, but then also there's a part of me that's like, no, but that's why I feel like I relate to people, is that shit kind of looks crazy and wacky.
Yeah.
So now we're in this time where like people don't want to see the curated,
They don't
the aesthetic,
want to see the gray,
and that's why
cutter.
I feel like I can just do a take, because I'm like, now I don't, before I would overthink my content. And if you go back, please don't, but if you were to go back and like look at old content, I would cut, and it wasn't me, and it was very much like I'd mess up and I'd be like, fuck, and then I would do it again. And then by the 10th time I record it, I'm like, the comedy's gone.
Yeah, it's not gone because you're frustrated.
Yeah, and the comedy for me, like when I put my phone down, like that Lemmy video, I took those things and I was like, holy fuck, I'm gonna make a video. I don't know what I'm gonna say. I just put the phone down, and I remember thinking, I look like fucking trash, but I was like, it's not like anyone's gonna see it. Like Courtney's not gonna see it, and of course that's the fucking video everybody sees. But But I like said things in that video. Like I said, like, you know, the people were like, oh, the Mike Tyson thing. Like, do you script that? I'm like, no, that just happened in the moment.
Yeah.
But if I had stopped that and re-recorded it, I would try to mimic what you did, and it's just not as good. It's watered down by then.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing I do with acting. Like, even in class, there are some actors that like to read and rehearse a million times. They want to know it like the back of their hand, which in some capacities is great. I think for like drama or a procedural show, you should do that. But for comedy, anytime I would have a comedy script, I'm like, I like to read it once or twice. And then that way the comedy can kind of find me in the moment. And you pick up on things that you're like, oh, that was a funny moment. And then the more you do it, the more watered down it becomes. So that was my very long-winded answer to your
Okay, I have kind of a personal question, which you don't have to answer, but I'm always curious how this works being a child actor. When it comes to money, is it, because I've obviously there's great parents that are responsible, which sounds like your parents were that, but there's also like the horror stories, right, where they're 18 and they have nothing.
Yeah.
Was there like an account for you set up where you're 18, you had access to it?
Yeah. So I actually just took that money out last year. It was nothing.
Good for you.
It was nothing. I got I got nothing on that show. Again, I came in as a non-actor.
Yeah.
We knew nothing about the industry.
Yeah.
My first season was making nothing. I mean, listen, for a kid, right? Like, it was great. You get an apartment they pay for, you get your per diem, you get your car, like you get all of those things so that you can like live in Los Angeles, and then you make money, which is more than any 10-year-old is making.
Yeah, for sure.
But I wasn't making. I think especially the popularity that I had at that time on the show, I definitely wasn't making that. But again, I wasn't an actor. We didn't know how to negotiate. The second season, we were able to renegotiate because we got some information about how to negotiate. But still, it was nothing. And I wasn't an actor long enough to even see anything crazy. Yeah. But you do have a Coogan account. A Coogan account is a portion of your money does go into an account that you can't touch by law until you're 18. I took that out last year. I think there was $4,000 in that.
You're lying.
Yeah, it was $4,000 in that.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me is the amount of money like the networks make.
Oh, it's insane.
For kids like you that just want their big break.
Totally.
And that are so good and talented and bring so much popularity to the show.
Yeah.
And they take advantage of the naiveness.
Yeah.
Because this is most kids' first ever gig.
Yeah.
And God, that's
I mean, it even happens with like, I say this too, like being an actor, unfortunately, is such a pick me job.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you're just begging people to validate you, give me a job. I'll pay you, give me a job. Yeah, so please. It's not even child actors in general, like the regular working actor. I'm not talking about the 1% of actors. I'm talking about the everyday working actor, the actors that make up the majority of the union.
Yeah.
They everyone's afraid to negotiate because they don't want to like, I'll take it. I don't want to it'll go to somebody else. Totally, of course. Yeah. Totally. It's shitty that happens. I mean, I know that the Disney kids got residuals. We didn't get residuals. So all that was on Netflix, I believe, a couple of months ago. Like my episodes were playing. I didn't see a penny of that. People were asking me like, oh, you're probably making bank from residuals. I haven't seen a penny since I was 10. That's
nuts. How is it allowed?
Yeah, these are the questions, right?
Because it's like, obviously, Friends is an insane comparison. But when I heard how much they make per episode, anytime it's
their mailbox money is more than they would make just
they would never, ever, ever, ever have to work another gig in their entire life after
just from residuals. Yeah.
Wow.
That's some good lawyers.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's not... I've been so far removed from being a child actor and children's content. I have to assume that there's more protection now for these kids and more people vouching for them and better legal teams handling this. But back in the day, I mean, that was like anything. Back in the day, like people were just getting royally fucked over on everything. Unless you were at the top, like I'm lucky you're giving me this opportunity, right? Like you're not thinking about the fact that like, oh, I'm bringing in a different demographic or I'm bringing in an audience. Like you're just like so grateful to be there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we worked a lot. Like,
oh yeah,
I worked 5 days a week, full days. And then the weekends were press or events or, you know, I'd have an early ass call time. Like, we were working full, and you know, you sacrifice a lot too, right? Like, I was a competitive gymnast. I had to let go of that. I was doing, you know, tutoring on set, which
I was gonna say, what about education?
you have to do a certain amount of hours of tutoring, and if you don't meet your hours in a day, they will cut you out of other scenes for the day until you've made that. I think I don't quote me, but I think it might have been like 4 hours for the day you have to hit.
Okay.
And that's hard because you'll do a scene, you're in full character, and then like Christina's school, and you'll run to school for 30 minutes. And then you'll do like as a kid, you can't focus on shit.
No.
So like you're doing school for 30 minutes and then you're back in hair and makeup and you go to your next sketch and it's like, we got to get you in 2 more hours before your next skit. And then you're going back to school. So it's like,
and you don't want to miss out on the other.
I don't really remember any of the shit that I was learning.
Yeah.
I will tell you this though, fun fact, I can't tell time because the time that they taught that in school, I was in California and I could never I can't tell time. If you give me a clock like this, I can read that it's moving. But if you give me a watch, I have to go 5, 10, 15. I can't tell time. Never got it.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. I do military time.
Okay, my boyfriend does it too. It's obnoxious as fuck. I gotta be honest with you.
I'm so sorry.
I'm looking at his phone. I'm like, what the fuck is 23.5? Can you just?
My first day of nursing school, everyone was required to pull out their phones and change it to military time so we could catch on quicker.
You bunch of assholes.
I know.
Bunch of fucking assholes.
Completely fucked. I know. And the clocks in our house too, because David was a cop for so long.
Okay.
Scotty fucking hates it. He's like 22:10. The fuck is that?
No, it's so I guess I asked, I'm like, Shane, what time is it? I'm like, you know what? Fucking never mind. Never I will just figure, I'll look at the fucking sun and figure it out. It's noon.
Like, I'll Google it. Siri can tell me out loud. Oh my God. Okay, so now you're doing TikTok, social media, obviously obsessed with you, but we were talking about how you're still interested in acting, right? Like, you still want to be.
Totally.
So what's your plan? Do you have a plan?
Well, haven't we learned that when I have a plan, it doesn't?
Right.
I'm trying to be a little bit more. I've planned everything my whole life. I've always been a planner. I've always been type A. This is the first time I'm trying not to plan because things have just panned out better than I could have imagined. When I thought I wasn't catching a break, there was. Everything that didn't work out for me, I'm really able to be like, I understand why, and that's given me a lot of trust in what's meant to be will be mine, as cliche as that is. I love acting so much. I love entertaining, which is why I love social media.
Yeah.
Because with acting, you only get the chance to entertain a couple of times a year, if that, and the entertainment that you're providing isn't even in your control. You might do a shitty job that you fucking hate the script, or you fucking hate the character. With social media, it's like I can control what entertainment. I can do it 5 times a day if I want.
You're your own boss.
I love it.
Yeah.
But I obviously, like, I love acting. My dream, everybody knows this about me, or my close friends, is I love action comedy. I would love to be like the female Deadpool. Oh my God,
that could, because you're so athletic. And
I just want to do stunts and like cut people up with katanas and like make jokes. Like that's my goal.
Yeah.
But I think
can see it.
Thank you. We just gotta, get some people behind.
You listening?
Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah. Ryan.
I think just when I have 2 films that I've done. We just premiered at Cinequest a couple weeks ago. Was our first film that I was actually my first executive producer credit. It was called Trigger Happy.
Wait, I need to watch some of your stuff.
Yeah.
After this,
Perfect. We'll go down a deep dive.
Okay.
Trigger Happy, and then I filmed another feature called The Sound. That is a horror film in the world of rock climbing, which was really fun and wacky and weird. And that was right before the actor strike. We did that.
Oh.
So, and then that was another, layer to everything. But I had a blast. I was so lucky that the cast and crew on both of those were incredible. And that also gave me the oh, I do really love that. When you spend a lot of time away from something, you forget how much you love it. And then when you're in it, you're like, oh yeah, I do really fucking love this. So I think just, I've put in the work for a very long time. I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at. And I think when that time comes that I can really start putting everything into acting again, I don't want to be arrogant and be like, it's going to be on my terms, but it's going to be it. When you do social media and you have control of it and you get your power back, it's really hard to like give that control up again.
Totally.
And I think as long as I can do things that I'm passionate about, that I love, and most importantly, work with good people, I'm fucking in.
Yeah.
And I don't want to compromise really on any of those things.
Yeah.
Before, I was doe-eyed. I was like, I'll work with whoever, I'll do whatever, just let me work. I need to pay my bills, I want to work. And now also because acting, there isn't that pressure of like, this has to pay my bills. It'll be nice to be in a situation where I don't have to be like, I need this job to live.
You can choose what you want to do.
Not that, you know, I'm in a point in my acting career where I can choose, but just being able to have more say of the things that I want to do and be a little bit more protective of my like creative will be.
Okay, so I don't know anything about that sort of industry, but when that is the case, does your team kind of find auditions that they think you should go to and then you attend and audition, and that's kind of what happens?
I wish it was that easy. No, your team has to convince people why you should get the audition.
Oh, yeah, I forget it's not like a walk-in thing.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, they see like, you know, there'll be like a 2-liner role and they'll see like 5,000 people for that role. And you got to keep in mind, it's not just LA anymore. They're pulling people from Atlanta. They're pulling people from, you know, everywhere. There's so many hubs. So what it is, you know, you have a team, your team pitches you, your team tries to get you the audition. Then getting the audition is the first hurdle. Then you get the audition, and then you go do the audition with 5,000 other people that are doing the audition. You do your fucking little dance. And then you find out whether or not you booked it. And I had a great team last year, incredible team, and I was going in for everything. My poor boyfriend was self-taping me at like 5 a.m. before work every day. I was self-taping probably 6 times a week, which is a lot. And
that's
I was going.
How you like kind of start the audition process is you'll tape yourself.
You put yourself on tape. Well, back in the day, you used to go in for an audition, and then ever since COVID happened, a lot of things have been, you send in a tape.
Okay.
So you have to set up your equipment like this. You have to get your lighting. You have to get ready. You do your audition. You're in control of it, which is nice. You get to watch it. You get to send off the take that you like. The downside of it is you don't get to meet people anymore, and I feel like I do really well when I can kind of communicate. Yeah. So I would do that, and then like so many auditions, I would get pinned, which is like the best news for an actor. Pinned is like, hey, it's between you and like maybe 1, 2, 3 other people, and you just fucking sit and wait. You're pinned. So you're pinned. You can't do anything. You can't leave the country. You can't book anything. You can't change your hair, get a tattoo. You just sit and fucking wait until hopefully someone calls you and says that you book it. 9 times out of 10, you get a call and they tell you you've been released and you're good. You didn't get it. And that would happen so much. And like mentally, I was not in a good place.
No, that would be so hard.
Yeah. There were a couple of roles I really would try not to get attached. So sometimes you get a script and you're like, oh, fuck. Like you picture yourself on set and you're like, I want this so bad. There was a couple that I went in for that I was like, I need this. This is my dream role. And you put all the hours into preparing for your audition. You watch other work that the director has done. You watch anything that you can. You do scene work, like anything to have the best audition. You submit the audition. You're like, that's the best fucking audition. And then you're just waiting like, you were released from Pin. Oh, is there anything I can work on? No, it just came down to like you and someone else and they decided to go in another direction. And there's never like
feedback.
You're like, wait, should I cut my hair? Should I dye my hair? Like, what should I do? And there's never like there's nothing. So then you're just sitting in this like, is it me? Am I not pretty enough? Am I not talented enough? And you can be the most confident person, but like every fucking day when someone's telling you like, we went with somebody else, we went with someone else, you start to believe like, this isn't for me, which is why I'm kind of having imposter syndrome right now with like social media and like people coming up to me and saying the sweetest things. Like I had a full mental breakdown the other day because I was like, you like me? You think that I'm funny? Because for so long I convinced myself, as much as I wanted to do something in this space, I convinced myself that like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not funny or maybe I'm not likable. So when when people say things or I'm like, what? Like, you enjoy what I do. It's just weird. It's just it's a psyche game that I've been playing for 7 years of telling myself I'm not enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
So would you love to just continue acting and kind of use social media as your stepping stone into that? Because I feel like I have a sense that something's going to happen. in like the next couple years where Scotty and I are like, holy shit, that's Christina in this preview. And then, you know, I don't know, I just get that feeling. But I feel like once you get to that point, it's going to be hard to manage both. And also you get to the point where you're like, I just want some fucking privacy.
Totally.
You know? But I do feel like social media has been a great stepping stone for you in your confidence because you took so much time off. I feel like that's really cool. And I also feel like people that have never had any sort of acting experience like you have been able to get into that Hollywood world because they found that confidence, or they have learned to memorize things like for ads or act in commercials and stuff like that, you know?
I think that it used to be, I mean, I don't know if social media is really taboo anymore, but it used to be very taboo.
Yeah.
And it was very much, I always use the comparison, and I can say this because I was both, but it's very much like cheerleaders and gymnasts or skiers and snowboarders. There's this like, we do the same thing, but we don't.
Yep.
And there's always this weird turf war situation.
Yeah, like at events and stuff.
Yeah.
When celebrities hate that social media
Totally.
influencers are there.
Yeah, it's just this weird cross. And it used to be a little bit more taboo in that way, where it's like, oh, if you're on social media, if you're Noah Beck, you're Noah Beck, right? If you're Charlie, like, whereas now we're seeing the worlds are blending. We're seeing celebrities on TikTok. We're seeing TikTokers on TV.
Yep.
And I think, I always say this, I understand why it used to be weird, because I would see TikTokers that I would follow and then I'd watch them on an episodic and be like, oh, I just saw you like dancing. Like it was weird for me to make that distinction. But I also feel like now people are consuming social media very differently than they used to consume television. I feel like more eyeballs are on social media these days. And actors have a day job. Most actors have a day job. There aren't a lot of actors that don't need, supplemental income.
Yeah, supplemental.
Yeah. I would rather do this than work at Starbucks because this is in alignment with what I'm doing. I'm building an audience, right? And that's how I look at it. There are casting directors, I'm sure, that feel both ways. I think that this has given me a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
I did a video where I talked about my experience in Hollywood. And I've briefly chatted about being a child actor or kind of my journey differently. But I've never had a story of like, hey guys, this is all the rejection I face. Because I think some people see me like, you were on all that, we saw you on Ambitions, and now you're like doing it on TikTok. But there was like a really big in between of like not getting struggling. Totally. And I've never shared that because I have a very hard time admitting failure. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just do a video. I have this platform. I'm just going to do a video and tell my full story. If someone's a struggling actor, maybe this will inspire them. If someone's a casting director, maybe they'll get an idea of what I'm doing. Yeah. And ever since I posted that video, I've gotten an influx of opportunities, both in the digital space and in acting. So amazing. I think use it as a tool. You have how many people following you? Totally. These are people that want to see what you're doing. Use it. It's your resume. Why not use it?
It's a different world, you know? And I feel like, we got invited to the Oscars, which was such a cool... No, that's a lie. That's a lie. We got invited to the Grammys. Fuck. I can't even get my fucking awards.
It's fine. Whatever.
We went to the Grammys.
Iconic.
And we weren't on the red carpet. We didn't do anything. And the joke of all my haters was that I was a seat filler. Unfortunately, you're wrong. We went with a brand. Anywho, this doesn't even matter. We weren't even on the red carpet, which I didn't give a fuck about. I just wanted to sit there.
Just going and have a good time. Everybody needs to fuck off.
And I just wanted to see how it was like, because I grew up watching, like that was my life, right? Yeah. So I just wanted to see like what happens during commercial breaks and the celebrity, like who's friends in real life and like what. So I was just like, David can attest, I was just like zooming on my phone on like the celebrities and watching what they were doing because I was just obsessed with it. And obviously people have certain opinions, but I was like above the swarm of people that were there for the awards, right? Like the people that are actually artists. And I just vlogged it. I left it alone. I'm not going to go up to any celebrity. I feel uncomfortable doing that. But I do feel like there are certain people that get invited to award shows like the Oscars. I saw a lot of heat about that. And then I saw, certain celebrities say things, like getting caught saying things, talking about us and our job. And I get some things in a sense of they don't want to be bothered because they want to be interviewed by actual reporters or like what they're there for. And they don't want people with the phone like, hey, you know, because I think internally they know it's going to blow up that person's page. Yeah. But I do think we are getting to a point where some celebrities are going to have to realize some of these worlds are now merging.
Totally.
You know?
I mean, I think the thing is, there's annoying creators, there's annoying actors, there's annoying people. Absolutely. Right? They're like, it's just, it is what it is. There are actors that are great and there's actors that suck. And the same thing with social media. I mean, it's just the same. I think it's being in the middle of both worlds. I understand both sides equally. Especially actors that have like gone through the struggle, not so much like, you know, the ones, not the Nepo babies, right? Like the ones that have really gone through the struggle and then they finally make it and they get there and then they have all these TikTokers kind of come in and they're like, I understand that resentment, that frustration. But I think there is a world in which we can all help each other. And I remember like the first award show, I forget which one it was before I was really on social media and seeing all these TikTokers and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. And then it was like, can't come to find out that it was like the most viewed, you know, no one's watching these award shows anymore. They're kind of dying. Yeah. And this brought in this whole, Gen Zers were watching it. And I was like, you know, that is actually kind of cool. And in a way, the artists that are there that are getting recognition, that should feel great that they're getting more eyeballs. And I think there's a world in which both parties can help each other. But I understand both sides. I get the turf war.
I also think before all the music shit just happened on TikTok, look at the top 10 music in any country. It's all TikTok songs.
No, I know things because of TikTok.
Yeah, it's like it's like the 30-second clip, but it's like that's why that song is trending.
Right.
And I feel like same with, for instance, I haven't had cable TV in who knows how fucking long. I don't see trailers for any movies coming out unless it's on social media. Yeah. That's how it's pushed, you know?
Totally.
And like that's the consumer, that's what they're watching.
I think anytime there's a disturbance or is an industry disruptive, a disturbance in an industry, this is what happens, right? Like, the same thing when we had radio and then we have television and when, you know, we were always going to see, and all of a sudden we have Instagram. What the fuck is this thing? Yeah. So I think that this is just naturally the next thing that's happening. Yeah. And things don't just happen in pop culture or society and then everyone's like, all right, cool. Yeah, we're doing this now. It takes a lot to get everybody on board.
Totally.
And I think that's what we're going through. And then there's going to be the next thing where we're like, you know, now we're doing AI. I think it's par for the course as far as people having reservations about it. Yeah. And I understand because I think at some point everybody that is on TikTok had reservations. Yeah. And we just moved through them a little bit quicker. And eventually I think, you know, people will all be closer to being on the same page about it.
I agree. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about your personal life because I don't know much about it, but I know you have a boyfriend.
I do.
How long have you been together?
4 years.
How did you meet?
We met on 2 dating apps. Yeah, we met on one.
Okay.
I don't remember. It was Hinge and Bumble. We met on one of them. And then he claims that I stopped responding. Well, here's the thing. I wanted to be in my fuck girl era because I just had recently gotten out of a bad relationship. And I was like, 6 months. I just want to be a fuck girl.
Yeah.
And of course, like every time you say that, like, you know, Prince Charming comes through and like ruins it for you.
Yeah.
So he said I stopped responding. I was just building my roster at the time, you know, and just
as one should.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then we were in our app deletion stage where, you know, you get frustrated and then you delete it and you move on to the next one. Re-downloaded another one 3 months later. We connected again. And I was like, I feel like we did this on another app at one point. And he's like, we did. And we both had known that we surfed at the same spots. Actually, he had like the most normal guy, like every photo, there was like 10 guys in it, and you're like going through and like trying to fucking find the like common denominator of who this guy. I'm like, oh, it's the white blonde. Okay, that's the blonde dude. And one of his photos was after he had been surfing, he like cut his head open and his head was bleeding. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's go on a date.
Oh.
And I remember the day of our first date, I was at the beach with my girlfriends and I was like, I don't know, guys, like he just seems like really like fucking boring. Like he texts me like no exclamation points.
Problem.
No, it was just like normal guy, like, yeah, sure, pick you up at this time. And I was like, give me some like exclamation, like just give me some zhuzh.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, I have a good feeling you got to go out with him. And the second he picked me up, I was like, oh yeah, this guy is, yes. I actually, my best friend still has the text. I texted her at like 2 a.m. from the bar and I said, this is the best date I've ever been on in my life. And we went to the bar. We went to the Whaler, which is like a Venice staple. Shut that down, went across the street, played pool, shut that down, went to Cabo Cantina, which you don't want to end your night at Cabo Cantina. Went to Cabo Cantina, and then we went to the liquor store, picked up a 6-pack of beer, went on the lifeguard tower, and like chatted till 6 a.m.
Oh
and
my
then
God.
that was the beginning of everything. We were kind of inseparable ever since.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, that's like the best date because you never want to leave them.
No, it was great. I was like, I had butterflies. He's the nicest, kindest, easiest guy. And it's funny, I feel like a lot of people don't know I'm in a relationship because I'm a little bit more private.
Yeah.
I was a little bit less private about my last relationship, and my last relationship was not good. And I kind of like to protect my little bubble a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and we are very like, we have just like a very adult relationship. Like everyone's like, oh, well, you don't bring him to events. He's got his great career, his world, his friends, his hobbies.
Yep.
I have mine. We have our life together.
Yep.
And it's just very healthy and normal. And he stays in his lane, I stay in my lane, and then we meet somewhere in the middle, like when it's our time. But I've liked having that. You know, when I go to events, people seem to forget, like, that's work to me, you know? And
it is. And it looks so fun and glamorous. And sometimes it really is.
Totally.
But that is what we do for a living.
Yeah, it's work. And you know, I like to go with my girlfriends and my girlfriends that kind of understand it. And like, we're on the same page and we understand what the expectations are. And it just doesn't always feel, there are some times that I bring him along, but it just doesn't always feel like the move for me. You know, I like to kind of keep that separate. But yeah, we've been together for 4 years. We just moved here in December. We were previously,
which is so cute, by the way.
Thank you.
It's so cute.
Thank you. It's not done, but we did pretty good for moving around Christmas. And then prior to that, we were in a tiny little 1-bedroom, 1-bath for 2.5 years.
Damn.
Yeah, we just outgrew that and we came here and we got the other dog and
amazing.
We got a family of 4.
Okay, so wrapping up, what are some next steps for you? What's on the horizon?
What's on the horizon?
Is that starting in your own Deadpool movie?
Well, of course.
Obviously.
I don't know. I don't have the answer to your question. I think I am in this really, really fun part of my career right now. And I could have never imagined any of this happening. And I really am just so grateful that I've been able to do this. And I kind of like just letting it surprise me because things have come up lately where I'm like, I would have never even thought that. And that is the coolest fucking thing that has ever happened to me. So I think just continuing to do what I'm doing, you know, entertain people, do what I love, and just be kind of open to all the opportunities that come around that. And then falling back in love with acting and pursuing that, and just continuing to be protective of my brand and my career and my peace being on social media. I think a goal of mine, I will say, is to be take better care of myself. I will say that's something that you hear about it, but once you start picking up traction on social media, there's this like immediate stress a lot of like, I have to keep up, or
every day.
I have to, and then my self-care is slipping and I'm not sleeping and I'm not eating correctly. And I think just being able to have a better balance, that would be my goal.
Yeah.
Because I want to do this for as long as possible. And I know that doing it the way that I'm doing it isn't very sustainable because I'm a little bit of a workaholic, but yeah, just finding a good balance and letting it fucking surprise me.
Yeah. Well,
and meeting people like you, and I'm so happy we got to do this.
No, thank you for being on. You're such a breath of fresh air, and I loved learning about your background and where you came from, because I didn't know, until I started following you. And I just think you're so funny. And I truly see so much for your future. Like,
Thank you.
I really see this as a stepping stone. And I think, obviously you started really young and you took this big break, but you're able to live as a semi-normal kid.
Totally.
Which I think is so important. And I say that like speaking as a mom.
Yeah.
That's a hard life, and a lot of those people that you worked with struggled as they got older because they didn't have that normalcy. So
yeah, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that I was able to live as normal of a life as possible.
Yeah.
And I know that's not always the unfortunately the outcome of that. And I'm happy that I've been able to enter back in on my terms and fall back in love with it because I want to, and not because somebody was making me do that.
For sure. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Make sure you guys go check out Christina on socials. She's so funny. Where can people find you?
It's on the internet. TikTok and Instagram at Christina Kirkman.
Yeah.
And then it's your boy Winston. And Winston DeWeen.
Don't forget Winston DeWeen.
Yeah, he's been such a good boy.
Handsome. All right, we're gonna go eat some of her favorite grapes on TikTok.
Shit. Yeah, we are.
Why the fuck not?
Love you guys.
Love you. Cheers.